Hello everyone and welcome to episode 78 of Podcast vs. Enemies, a Destiny Massive Breakdown show. I've returned from the Highlands and ready to get back into the swing of things. Impetus is absent this week, so it's just Saint and I as we cover the last remaining seasonal weapons. If you're here for the Crotus End special, that should be next week. That's episode 79, when the full PvE fire team reconvenes. Alright, we've got a lot of weapons to break down this week, so let's get the show on the road. Saint, how have you been, and what have you been up to?
I have been good. We're really starting to settle into the new house here, which feels good. Art is up on the walls, rugs are on the floors, dishes are all in their right places, which I'll probably post a office desk update here in the near future with all the Destiny art, etc. on the walls, but it's been a pretty eventful week. You know, it started off kind of normal, doing some GM runs, enjoying the fact that Warden's Law got thrown in there. Loot change feels good. Love to see that new weapon. It's feeling good. Did some dungeon runs. Big shout out to Cody and Deck. I finally got the Navigator to drop, which was a big one. I got my Monte Carlo catalyst to drop, and I thought that was pretty much it for the week. And then things started happening on Friday. Somebody sent me a picture of a Callus mini tool with an Osteostriga trait, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny," and seems kind of strong. And I didn't really think anything of it. Now I'm like, "Oh, I can't wait to get home and play some trials tonight for the first time in a long time. Get a new igneous hammer." And somebody said, "Are you really going to go in there right now?" And I didn't understand it. And then I saw a grenade launcher shooting a shotgun frame burst, and that's when I started to really trigger for me that things were going off the rails a bit. Court, I'll leave that there for now. How about you, man? How have you been? It's great to have you back on PvE this week.
Yeah, so a lot of things have happened since I got back. So I got back the Tuesday reset last week, so by the time this episode comes out, it'll be a week since I've been back, and a lot of things have happened. We saw the GM reward being rotated from the Swarm, which we don't have a lot of kind thoughts for, to be Warden's Law, and it's obviously we had the double drops as well on top of that, so that was a great decision from the rewards team or whoever at Bungie pulled some levers and pressed some buttons to make that happen. And then got to the end of the week and it's like, there's some illegal stuff happening here. What's going on? But yeah, we'll maybe talk about that in a few moments here. But yes, I am back from my holidays. I did have an amazing time up in the Highlands. So I was staying near Fort William, which is on the west coast side of Scotland, and near the Glen Cove Mountain Resort. So there's a mountain range called the Glen Coves, very picturesque area of the country. I did spend most of my time walking, hiking, driving, and just taking in all the lovely landscape. The weather was actually really good. I was kind of wondering if it would be typical Scottish weather of just rain all the time, which there was. There was little bits of rain here and there, but I honestly don't really mind that whatsoever. Of course I did spend some time in a very warm hot tub, chilling and listening to my PvE lads on the last two episodes. Some really great chatter, some great breakdowns, and some great questions, which we'll get onto in a few moments here as well. I'll post some images of the amazing landscape on the Discord in the PvE channel when this episode goes out, for those that are kind of wanting some inspiration. It's a very lovely place, the west side of Scotland. It's somewhere I'd love to go to on a more permanent basis when I'm slightly older, aka retired. Really great place. So I've really had a good time, all chilled out. I'm ready to get back into Destiny stuff and some project work as well.
Nice.
in Destiny, I've obviously just been doing some Crota and GM runs. The GM runs that I've been doing have all been perfectly legal. I haven't done any of the illegal runs with, an Amit AR2 with shotgun rocket launcher pellets. It's just some really wacky stuff out there. I think by the time this episode goes out, it's likely all going to be fixed. I think just before we started recording this, we just saw a tweet about they've extended the kind of maintenance period or the time where they're going to start resetting things. But hope you all had fun with all that shenanigans. Some very interesting week. Definitely been the week of all time for Destiny.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say that this is probably the most dramatic bug glitch that we have ever seen in the game. Like the most impactful thing ever to pop up in Destiny 2. Cord, can you think of anything else that would have rocked the boat more than this crafting glitch has this weekend?
Oh, well, I know. So obviously we had this sort of inverse back in Season of the Seraph when we had Revision 0 came out and then that started breaking the game internally. There was like some, I don't know, lack of a better phrase being like a memory leak in terms of Revision 0 was just like destroying the relic from the inside, which then caused the game to go down and we had to roll back. So it's kind of similar, like there's some similarities to that, but I don't think it was as extreme. And some folks have been comparing it to Prometheus Lens laser tag weekend from when was that? That was that
was a long time ago.
Yeah. If you got an emblem for doing that, if you were there during the week, I sadly did not get that emblem because I was actually absent that weekend. I was watching from afar and be wondering what is going on here. But I think it's like. So yeah, everyone was comparing it with laser tag, and I think it's just like it's laser tag amplified by 1,000.
Yeah.
I did want to get an igneous hammer. I had plans to go in this weekend and do some trials, whether it was solo or duo or trio. It didn't really matter to me. I just wanted to get an igneous hammer and then either kind of focus it or just keep farming it, because I know you guys talked about either last weekend or the weekend before where they announced the changes for trials where it drops a lot more loot on a consistent basis, regardless of your kind of your ability. So that was a nice little change. But yeah, I went in. I didn't have any illegal guns, and the first kill was a grenade launcher that was firing out 12 I don't know how to describe it, but it's something.
Pellets? I don't know. They should be
pellets which were the size of like a nuclear bomb. Massive things coming in, and like I read up and saw a bunch of videos just sort of describing it, so I knew it was coming. It wasn't a surprise.
Yeah,
but it was just like, okay, I'm going to need to craft my own illegal weapon here, and I did. I think I got an Amit, but even at that, like I was just like, I don't want to do trials. I'll just wait. I'll wait for my good roll igneous hammer. I
ended up not really touching it either this weekend. It was just too chaotic. I was like, I'll just do a couple GMs and have some fun with the Plank Stride that has unlimited ammo. And we'll come back to that in a week or two, right?
But yeah, no, it's been a very fascinating week, and Bungie's comms have been. I was pretty surprised when they came out and said, we're not doing a rollback. We're not, everyone have fun. They basically just said, we're aware of this. Have fun for the time being. As long as you're not cheating, you're not doing network manipulation or anything like that. Have fun, and it was just very surprising to see that. So. Yeah, very interesting. We've got a little comment here from Impetus, who, he isn't here this week, but he says, sorry I couldn't be here, folks. I am helping my grandmother take her dog out of the lake right now. This past week, I crafted a song of our utes, ran some GMs, and played some of the craziest stress-free trials matches of my life. Originally hoped to go flawless, but decided to grind out loot instead. Yeah, that's what I was meaning there. I got a heel clip golden tricorn igneous hammer, as well as a envious assassin cascade point cataphract. Also a bunch of new dragon armor for the warlock. Yeah, the armor does look really cool. We obviously haven't talked about trial stuff or rewards in this podcast for obvious reasons, but that loot, the armor, does really intrigue me, and it's one of those like, I want to get all 3 sets for my hunter, my warlock, and my titan. So who are we thanking this week then, Saint?
Yeah, let's get on to the proper episode. First off, as always, we want to shout out our sponsors who go above and beyond in their support for the show, helping us stay on air each week. A Modern Viking, Askian Monk, Bryce Aroni, Deacon, I'm K. Rose, Moonlight, and This Moment. As a reminder, if you would like to support the show, you can leave us a review, whatever platform that you tune in on. Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, always helps promote our show to others that may be looking for some Destiny shows to listen to or anything like that. You can also send us all kinds of feedback directly to our socials or in the Massive Breakdowns Discord server, where we've got a specific channel for discussing this podcast. Positive, critical, constructive feedback always helps with the trajectory of the show and how we break down builds, weapons, information, and much more for the PvE sandbox. If you would like to support the show even further, you can sign up for Patreon at DestinyMassiveBreakdowns.com, where there will be a link to the Patreon page specifically, where we'll be putting out some Q&As and things like that every couple of weeks going forward. You also get access to a members-only channel in the Discord, a little bit of behind-the-scenes episodes and previews, as well as input on the show and access to our legendary annual merch drop. Court, what are we getting into for the meat of the episode here this week?
So to start us off, we're just going to do a quick fire round of Patreon queues for me, and we also have a quick fire round of the TWID. We're not going to spend too much time there. And yes, the meat and potatoes of this particular episode is the Season 22's Wild Loot Weapons. We're rounding out all the miscellaneous foundry drops, and we also have 2 exotic weapons in the name of Dead Man's Tale and Dead Messenger, which were obviously made craftable this season, which will take a little bit of time to break down. A little bit of housekeeping and sort of podcast update section. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, the Crota's End episode is next week. That's episode 79. Little few corrections here. So I know you guys were talking about Warden's Law, the ammo count last week. We didn't have the correct magazine count. That's one thing that's always going to be inaccurate with third-party applications and websites. Just the way that the API displays the magazine count, it's never going to be 100% accurate without some manual manipulation. But the base magazine of Warden's Law is 16, and with extended mag, it's 22. I did get an extended mag Warden's Law with Frenzy and Perp Motion, I think.
Nice.
I don't know where it is in my vault. I can't see it. Oh yeah, there it is. So I got Vorpal Weapon, 4 times the charm, and an extended mag, Perp Motion, Frenzy. And,
nice.
Yeah, very fun. A little correction as well about grenade launchers and explosive light clarification. You want to take that, Saint?
Yeah, this is something that we were talking about, I think, with Cataphract last episode, and I was trying to remember the way that the damage distribution and impact, kind of all plays out on that, because it is a little bit different from rocket launchers to grenade launchers, and there is so much nuance around the way that impact versus explosive damage work and what affects which part of the damage with such a degree of a modifier and all this stuff. So a note that Rock DC mentioned, thank you Rock for the clarification here, is that explosive light does max out that blast radius stat. So the base blast radius stat isn't super important, and the spike grenades will only affect the impact once you actually run out of those explosive light stacks. So the optimal build, so to say, would be to have your blast radius as low as possible, really low, and just get a tiny bit more damage from those spike grenades because of the way that it, that ratio plays out in damage. Basically, really low blast radius will help you get slightly more from spike nades, and explosive light is going to put that at 100 anyways whenever that stat is up, which is one thing we were forgetting about that trait, especially when it comes to the way that this damage is worked out and split between those two pieces. So thank you, Rock, for the clarification.
All right, so we have a little quickfire round here. I really enjoyed last week's segment, talking about so patrons have every kind of couple of episodes. We mentioned this at the start of the season when you were absent, saying we do these kind of like question segments, and this was one I wasn't here for, but I was interested to put some answers to the questions. So this will be a quick fire round. If you want to learn more from Saint and Impetus, their answers to these questions, you can get that at the end of last week's episode. That's episode 77. So question one for me, weapons that won't get dismantled. Very simple: kill, clip, rampage, kindled orchid until that comes back, and long goodbye sniper rifle. The reason with the second one, I really like the long goodbye. Such a really good looking sniper rifle. The scope's really great as well. It's just a fan favorite. That was the Nightfall drop for Insight Terminus, and I can remember farming many runs of that back when that was like Forsaken era. But
man, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Me too. But it's still in my vault, and it's like just sat there. I like to bring it out sometimes, have a little just look at the scope, look at the design of the long goodbye, and it just looks just fantastic. I don't really have a great roll because I think I got rid of most of them, but I've got rapid hit and high impact reserve, so probably good for PvP, I guess. Question two, delete one weapon type from the game. So my bait answer, because you guys are talking like a real and a bait answer, the bait answer would be snipers, except exotics, and the real answer for me would be, I'm in agreement with Impetus. I think wave frame grenade launchers they've one particular wave frame has caused some issue for Barons. Question three was the kind of PC/keyboard maintenance. Yes, I do spend some time and effort to make sure my PC is quiet. It's just sat right next to me, just humming away very quietly. And I use a Corsair K70 with red switches as my keyboard. Question four, favorite build for Powerful Altar of Summoning. I've got the Shinobu's Vow and Suppression builds, both of which are listed in the Discord builds forum. Question five, bacon and no games, or no bacon and all the games. I'd go for the second, unlimited games. I can go without bacon. To be honest, I'm more of an egg and chicken kind of guy anyway. Bacon is fine. It's good. It's not the best, though. Dude,
preach, Court. Man, firm handshakes all around.
It's one of these questions where it's like, does bacon count like gammon and like pork chops? Because if it doesn't,
bacon.
Then...
They didn't say breakfast meats,
well...
That's a whole different...
That's what was going through my head when I heard this question. I was like, how what does bacon encompass? But yeah. Hobbies outside of gaming and a new weapon type. That's question 6. So hobbies for me is kind of outdoorsy stuff. Obviously with the recent holiday that I've just had. So walking, hill walking, a little bit of hiking. I do like to drive. I'm a big keen driver. And some technical drawing and design work, which is probably where you can guess where my interest for infographics comes from. And for a new weapon type, prior to a showcase, I would have said something like a support weapon, like what we saw with the auto rifle kind of healer build. Now I'd say something wacky, like a weapon that turns enemies into temporary allies.
That's a throwback.
I kind of want to see that. Yeah, I want to see a weapon that I can like either spawn or turn an enemy against my foes.
What was that D1 artifact called that had some kind of effect like that?
Oh, yes.
Memory of...
someone in the podcast channel or on our socials will probably give us the name, but I'm aware of that. So yeah, the tech has been
there.
present.
Yeah.
Question 7, hot versus cold foods. It's hot foods for me. I think the sensation of like having some soup or just having like a nice like hot toasty or like something that's just hot is like such a great like sensation. It's very, especially in like the wintertime, you have something really warm to warm you up. And yeah, cold foods, yeah, not for me. And finally, we actually missed this question from Rock. So this was submitted basically by the time these guys were recording last week's episode. So the question here is, what exotic weapon do you most want to see buffed? So we'll spend a little bit more time here talking about this one. For me, I'll go by each slot. So kinetic slot, I would say Bastion. Bastion just feels pretty redundant now. Its main gimmick now that they removed the chip damage from like dealing damage behind a shield, it now is just a kinetic fusion rifle, and it deals with unstoppable champions, and that's it. That's its whole gimmick, and it's a big shame because I really enjoyed using Bastion in both in PvP but also PvE. I think it was just a really great fusion rifle. For the energy slot, I would say Borealis. I think the energy slot we've had. I think we've got some really great picks in there. Saint will talk about one in a moment here, but of all the weapons, I think the energy slot has some really great, like, kind of well-balanced weapons. I think Borealis is maybe the lowest for me anyway. I think it's another weapon that's got design on paper seems pretty legit. It seems really cool. In practice, it's a little bit difficult trying to like juggle between the like energy like swapping between each element. And then finally, heavy weapon, I would say the Colony. Now, this be a lot of triggered people probably listening to this because, you know, I was part of the meta during year one where the Colony was all powerful. It was completely... it would decimate in PvP. It was something to fear, just seeing all those little bugs flying around. But since then, it's you bring out the Colony and it still feels like it's in year one. It's a big shame that nothing's really happened to the Colony. It's a very interesting weapon. Again, it's like kind of taps into what I would want in terms of a gun that kind of you spawn an enemy, but it's an ally for you. Same kind of deal. Can I make an ornament? Or can Bungie make an ornament that turns little insectoids into mini screebs? So yeah, Colony for me for the heavy. Saint, what are you feeling?
You know, I can't remember who gave this interview for the life of me, but I remember a really long time ago hearing this story about the Colony and its projectiles in testing. When they are developing and they have the technology to make the weapon, but they didn't have the design for the specific projectiles yet, they used the rabbit model from the EDZ, which would chase you around and then explode, which is just great. For
great.
My weapons, I'm going to say I just got two. Energy slot is going to be Ariana's Vow. I think even just like a crit multiplier buff here a little bit, or a buff against majors would really go a long way. It's tough when it can feel like a primary bow is able to do better work against a champion than like the original anti-champion weapon. Ariana's Vow is also, especially considering it uses special ammo. I know that that's kind of has to do with the perk of Wishender, but still it leads to a situation where it feels bad to use Ariana's Vow, and I want it to be good. And Deterministic Chaos. I think it's a really interesting weapon, and it has a lot of potential, but it needs a little bit more in its capability to just output damage at the cost of your exotic slot. It just needs a little bit more. I'm not exactly sure what that could be, but definitely love to see a buff to that thing.
Cool. All right, let's do our quickfire TWID. This is from the 14th of September. So the big news here is that we are saying goodbye to Legendary Shards, which is starting in Season 23 and then kind of finalizes in Season 24, and some economy adjustments. So the Glimmer and Engram drops will be increased to compensate for this, and maybe a Glimmer cap increase in the future. So a lot of kind of moving parts. They did release sort of partial news of this, and then I think them judging by the feedback, they were just like, okay, we'll commit to increasing kind of Engram drops and Glimmer. We've got Masters Crotan coming in September 19th, so by the time this episode goes out, Essences of the Oversoul drops are getting huge buffs. Again, that's for Crota's End. All the details are in the TWID, but they're basically massively improving the drop chance and adding some more kind of weekly guaranteed drops. We did get some sandbox previews here. We've got damage buff to snipers in PvE coming. We've got Peregrine Greaves damage bonus and refunds a melee charge when used against champions, tormentors, and mini-bosses. Syntheseps removal of the extra lunge range, but they are adding essentially threat detector into it, plus rolling back some of the glaive melee damage nerfs. And of course, we'll have some more exotic armor updates coming in Season 23 later this season. This wasn't in the TWAB, but in case folks haven't seen it, the D2 team on Reddit confirmed that the Foundry weapon focusing is making a permanent return next season. That's Season 23. So,
beautiful.
Presumably that'll be all the Foundries. I know we'll be talking about some Foundry weapons this season, or this episode, I should say. But yeah, very excited to see that. There are some kind of gems in some of the Foundries, but it's very hard to get them. But yeah, any comments there, Saint?
Threat detector on my Syntheseps? Thank you very much. I'm sure that there are some people that are miffed about the fact that they are losing their melee range distance increase. That's really a Crucible focus trait. So for me, it is losing what is mostly a player versus player benefit and getting a benefit that, goes both sandbox, which is a buff, and the glaive melee rollbacks. Plus, I know that we've heard about some exotic glaive rework stuff going on at some, in an upcoming season. Could be eating good. Could be living that gumdrop bubble lifestyle in no time. We've seen it in the GM last season that we played. Maybe that's going to be a pretty good build. I don't know. No matter what, the glaive melee getting buffed back up a little bit you'll definitely see a resurgence in that because of their defensive capability as well. I'm thinking in the near future. Feels good, man.
Very cool. All right, on to the meat and potatoes of this particular episode. Like we mentioned, we're going to be rounding out all the general weapon breakdowns for this season. We've got the recovered red war weapons, we've got world drop foundry weapons, and we've got the two craftable exotics. That's Dead Man's Tale and Dead Messenger. So we'll kick things off with the recovered red war weapons. So to acquire these, it's via the Season 22, that Season of the Witch vendor, for a cost of 2 Witches engrams plus 1,000 Glimmer, or you can get them as a random drop via activities. So first up, we have the Showrunner. Now, all of these are from pretty, early on Destiny 2's lifespan. So there are some, at least the first two, that are very, two weapons that I used quite a lot back in year one. And, we've come a long way from having, say, static roll of you've got one scope, you've got one barrel, and you've got one perk, and that's it. So yes, we'll kick things off with the Showrunner. That is a kinetic lightweight SMG. That's 900 RPM. Let's remember the frame bonus for lightweights is plus 20 mobility and a 6.25% forward moving speed bonus. So when you're moving forward, not running, just moving, you get that slight kind of increase to movement speed. The origin traits here, we've got Vanguard's Vindication, weapon kills restores 7 HP, and we've got Nadir Focus. So this is a Nadir weapon, a sustained fire increases accuracy and range. We're still trying to get some of the kind of exact details for those increases. So we're going to make a comparison between this and Submission. A little bit of an unfair comparison because considering Submission's quite a stat monster compared to all other. Yeah. But by this point, we're what, 8 seasons away from Vow the Disciple. It's quite, in relative terms, it's quite a older weapon compared to now. So we have 28 range versus 29, 35 stability versus 45, 60 handling versus 70, 27 reload versus 29, and 13 zoom versus 15. And to really round off the fact that Submission's a stat monster, it comes at base with 100 recoil direction compared to the showrunner's 91, which is just mind-boggling. It comes with
fine. It's fine.
So yeah, Submission obviously reigns supreme here. It is a stat monster. Submission still has some great perk pairings, even to today's standard. But with Showrunner being a recent addition, it does have some of kind of newer perks for Column 4, like Kinetic Tremors, Target Lock, and even Collective Action, which is very interesting to see on a kinetic weapon. But no bait and switch or frenzy, which is what Submission had. So, what are we thinking for the barrels and the magazine, Saint?
I am probably going to try to boost my range up here. Being an SMG and with the base stats of what they are, honestly, pretty high recoil direction, even though it's not the 100 that Submission gets. It's, 91 is pretty vertical, even if you're playing on a controller that's going to be very easy to control. So I don't think that we really need to target that. So I'm probably going to be going for something, if I go full bore, that is going to be a bit of a hit to my stability, but luckily you can kind of recover that in your mag, depending on the mag option that you choose, and a big plus 15 to range. That is going to be pretty tempting, I would say, to just go all in on full bore or something like that because of the increase it can give you in your range, which, you're usually with your really high rate of fire weapons like this is going to be generally a weakness. So I'll take every extra little meter that I can get. If you don't want the detriment, you could always go with something like small bore for a little extra range, a little extra stability. And yeah, I would say personally, I'm probably going to go ricochet rounds to balance out my full bore. If I'm really crafting this thing, if I'm really getting to pick, I think that would be a solid option because it's going to give me just even more, another 5 points of range, and it's going to counteract that stability degrade that I got. 10 points. Now we're right back at 35. I don't know, Cord, how about you? You diverting from the full bore ricochet rounds path? Any of the rounds or anything stand out to you?
No, I'd probably pick the same. I'm a big, strong believer. Being on keyboard and mouse is a little bit different compared to being on a controller. But I do think range is the play here. Mm-hmm. I was going to say, in relation to that, you do have DSR on dynamic swing reduction on column 3. So if you are a controller player, if you're not that keen on, the sort of bounciness, there isn't, stability is quite low at 35. And even though the recoil direction is 91, you might still have that kind of bump to deal with as a controller player. But yeah, for column 3, I'm looking at overflow, but because I've already got enhanced overflow on my Submission, I'm just thinking, what else could I pick here? We've got well-rounded. Throwing a grenade or hitting a target with a charged melee grants a stacking bonus for weapon stability, handling, and range. Let's see what if you get that times 2 well-rounded, it's plus 20 range, stability, and handling. You could go for heating up. I did kind of eye at that. That's another one for upping your stability. Again, if you're wanting to build into stability, you get plus 30 at ×2 heating up. And yeah, dynamic sway there as well. So it's either column 3 overflow or well-rounded or heating up. Because I've already got overflow on my submission, I'm probably going to go well-rounded or heating up. Column 4 is where things are a little bit different compared to submission. We've got some brand new perks here. Kinetic Tremors is here for that hits required for activation for an SMG. That's 12. It does say here in D2 Foundry that the magazine's 36. I'm not sure if that's completely accurate. As we mentioned at the start of this segment here, the mag size isn't always 100% accurate, but 12 out of the 36 for Kinetic Tremors to work. I'm not too sure. I'm not entirely convinced Kinetic Tremors on an automatic rifle, an automatic weapon is the play here. We do have target lock. Swashbuckler here. You could make a pair with Grave Robber and Swashbuckler. That's a great kind of pairing if you're into melee builds. Fragile Focus is here. Not entirely interested in that type of perk. And they've got Collective Action. I'm sure we've had kinetic weapons prior to this season with Collective Action, but it's weird to see, like, in essence, a elemental perk on a kinetic, even though you can trigger any sort of like picking up any of the fire sprites, ionic traces, stasis shards, and void breaches, or throwing a strand tango. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to come from your weapon. But yeah, that's your 20% increased damage, and if you pick up more, that goes up to 12 seconds. So I might be going for that. I may go for Collective Action. What's your thoughts on Kinetic Tremors for an auto?
I liked it in practice. I did get lucky, and I got a dynamic sway reduction and kinetic tremors roll, which, going back to dynamic sway reduction, I actually like that more than I thought that I would. There is still another trait in the third column. I'm probably going well-rounded, which I'll explain a little bit more in just a second. But yeah, even playing with a really low stability on controller, the benefit from dynamic sway reduction is just nuts, man. You can just absolutely beam a target with crits, which, hey, crits is damage. In PvE, it's the accuracy traits usually get left behind, but I mean, always remember, the more accurate you are, the better your DPS is. Personally, though, I am going to be going well-rounded because I play so many really ability-heavy focus kits recently. Between Bonkhammer and Strand Titan, you are just able to activate well-rounded ×2 so easily, and the amount of stat buffs you're getting from that is actually crazy. I mean, you're pushing your range upwards of like 20, 21 meters if you're, already have a high range roll, because your range is like almost 80 when well-rounded ×2 is up. The kinetic tremors only detractor that I saw was that because the weapon fires so fast and kinetic tremors essentially functions off of a timer, you can't proc kinetic tremors 3 times in a row if you land all 36 shots. It's just not how it works. It kind of times out, right? So you land, let's say 18 shots, that's going to proc kinetic tremors out of, because the base is 12, right? I believe, for this guy. And only problem with that...
For SMGs, it's 12 hits required. Yeah.
So you land your 12 shots, which is really easy to do with a 900 RPM weapon, but you can't proc kinetic tremors again until it is completely done procking. And you can get through an entire mag without it re-procking. So not to say that it is a bad trait, but it's just maybe not quite as strong as people thought it would be, to your point, Court, on an automatic weapon. So I would also definitely take Swashbuckler or Collective Action, because, again, those melee kits that are going with well-rounded would pair super well with something like Swashbuckler or Collective Action, because you're throwing so many tangles, you're picking up so many fire sprites. If you have your kit built out the way that I do, especially this season with some of those artifact mods, it's super easy to have Collective Action up all the time, which is 20%. But
column 4... Swashbuckler and Collective Action are definitely two perks that really pair great with those type of builds. And I've been seeing a lot more of myself using melees on Hunter, and it's a bit of a weird thing to say considering, Hunter's thing is kind of melee. You always tend to have your melee up, but I tend to go more for grenade focus builds, like especially when it comes to Void Hunter, have your grenade proc Devourer and then volatile rounds, etc. But here I'm thinking using this on my Strand Hunter, because Thready Spike got a substantial buff last season, and it's doing some really great wonders. So I am also thinking, well-rounded, get that ×2 up, Swashbuckler to get that immediate 33.3% damage buff. If you want to go down the collective action route, if you're spawning a lot of Strand Tangles and throwing them, you get that easy 20% for 7 seconds, or if you've getting a lot more, if your team's making more, that's another, increasing it up to your 12 seconds. So yeah, you've got some really interesting builds here, some interesting synergy with, in particular, melee-based builds. If you don't want that free +20 to range, stability, and handling at ×2 well-rounded, then yeah, Grave Robber is also there. To reload your magazine for reserves. Pretty basic in terms of a perk, but this is a weapon that is dropping at random. You don't get to really necessarily pick. So if a Grave Robber Swashbuckler dropped for me, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. I'll take this.
It's sticking around.
And obviously, you compare this with the Nadir Focus origin trait. So Sustained Fire increases the accuracy and range, and for other bonuses for the other weapons as well. I don't really mess with Vanguard's Vindication. It's quite a small 7 HP, it's quite a small bonus. So having the option to have increased accuracy and range on top of this particular weapon kind of excelling at hitting your targets, if you've got the right perk selection. Very great synergy there. All right. Any final comments about the Showrunner?
No, solid gun. Come a long way from tac mag and dynamic sway reduction being the only thing that you could get to drop on this thing.
All right, take it away with Nightshade.
Nightshade is back as well. Really old weapon. It is still a lightweight pulse rifle, 450 RPM, but it is now a strand weapon, formerly kinetic. It's got that same lightweight frame bonus for your mobility and forward movement speed. It's +20 and 6.25% respectively. And it has the same 2 origin traits, Vindication and Nadir Focus. Being our first strand lightweight frame pulse rifle, let's compare to a couple of their in-slot competitors. We'll take 2 kinetics and 1 stasis weapon here. Chattering Bone from our recent Last Wish loot refresh, Battle Scar, Season 20 World Drop weapon, and Safe Frosty, a Dawning weapon. Starting off with 33 range, which is second to Stay Frosty's high of 38. It's got 54 stability, which is highest in the group, 66 handling, joint last place here with Chattering Bone being first all the way up at 70, 4 points higher, 58 reload speed, which is second to Chattering Bone's 63, 68 aim assist, which is third to Chattering Bone's 71, and 17 zoom, which this only has 18, or Stay Frosty has 18, I should say, which is incredibly high. 56 recoil direction, which is second to Chattering Bone's 57. This also has a slightly smaller mag of 30 versus 33 on Chattering Bone and 31 and some others. Overall, this thing has some really solid stats. I think even though it is not peaking out, it's still some good competition, and it does have that highest in group stability there. So different damage profile, than everything else except for Chattering Bone, because it is kinetic, so there's a little bit of a benefit there, and it's our first strand weapon in type and archetype, so it gets a little bit of a break there. As we move into barrels and mags, Court, what are we going to try to use our barrels and mag to boost up a little bit here on Nightshade? What stats do you want to try to help out with your barrel and mag?
Much the same with the Showrunner. They're both lightweight frames here, so I'm still going to kind of prioritize range. Again, I'm on mouse and keyboard. It's going to be a little bit different if you're on controller. The recoil direction is a lot wider compared to an SMG, so the rounds may be going a bit further, kind of between the cone here. But I'm still going to be focusing on, say, full bore and ricochet rounds. But there's definitely kind of perks here that you may want to prioritize instead. Looking at arrowhead break, which gives you that plus 30 for recoil direction. You do get that plus 10 for handling as well. If you want to just go for the bog standard plus 7 roll for range and stability, small bore is also there. Polygonal rifling does give you that plus 10, but I think I would still probably prioritize arrowhead break just to kind of really tighten up the recoil direction. For the magazine, I'm not really necessarily going to mess with any kind of the typical mags, which is why I'm recommending something like ricochet rounds. You could go for high cal rounds for that kind of flinch on lower tier enemies. Anything else you want to point out here?
Nah, it's got to be arrowhead if I'm on controller, and range if I'm not.
For column 3, not really. I mean, there's some interesting perks. I've not used Enlightened Action a lot, so if at all, to be honest, I can't even remember if I've got a weapon with Enlightened Action. But so dealing damage improves reload speed and handling. Now, is this something you really need with Nightshade? You know, the reload speed's 58 already, handling's already 66. So does it need that increase? Now, Enlightened Action does stack up. It goes up to times 5, and the numbers here in D2 Foundry is plus 50 if you're at times 5 for both. So you're going to maximize your handling and almost maximize your reload speed depending on what your perks are at times 4 or times 5. Keep away is here. I think that's maybe something that I'm going to focus on because it does increase your range. It also gives that plus 30 reload speed. It also narrows the accuracy cone by 5%. Heating up here again. If I want to go down the route of I'm slaying out, very, very fun to see a very old perk here. Outlaw is in column 3. Not going to really pick that, but for me, column 3, heating up, keep away, and not entirely sure if Enlightened Action is the play here because handling and reload are already pretty high. Column 4 here, you do have the combo Outlaw and Kill Clip. You want to go for the age-old classic. Live out your year 1 memories with Nightshade. We have Collective Action. We also have Hatchling as well. So if you've got a threadling kind of build you want to play into it, if you like clicking those heads to spawn those threadlings with Hatchling, then it is here. I think, again, I'm going to be pretty boring and just probably pick Collective Action as another kind of, it's free 20% for picking up any of the elemental effects or destroying a tangle. What perks are you vibing here, Saint?
I think that Enlightened Action is a really good trait because of its ability to provide up to 10 or 50 handling and 50 reload, but I'm kind of with you that I would rather go for Keep Away and get really still a super high reload speed all the way up to like 88, and I can get that extra 10 range and that little bit more accuracy. So yeah, Enlightened Action, great trait. In this case, I'm probably going Keep Away, although I could see an argument for Outlaw after that, maybe if I wanted the reload. But yeah, I'm probably going to Keep Away, and then maybe priority to Enlightened Action, I would take Outlaw if I had to. And I say that because I'm going with Hatchling in the 4th column. I really started playing with a little more hatchlings. I've been playing with my Neomuna hand cannon with hatchling, that round robin and subsistence, and I'm kind of liking it. I've even started to dabble with a little warlock action. Getting a little broody, bringing my squad of threadlings around with me. So I'm pretty partial to hatchling these days. Since they buffed them, it feels good, at least up until kind of your upper middling, maybe legend content. Hatchling builds still feel really effective. Once you get into maybe some master raid content, I don't know if they hold up all the way up there, but yeah, definitely feel like a very viable thing in the sandbox these days, and a lot of fun. Honestly, I'm getting it now. I get the threadlings.
Now, just on top of that, you could pair for this a threadling build for any class. I suppose it excel really great on Warlock, but for any of the other classes as well, you could pair obviously with Evolution, makes them travel faster and further, and it deals 33% increased damage. Pair this with also Rebirth. This is a strand weapon, so if strand weapon kills progress a counter that spawns a variable number of threadlings upon reaching 100%. So rank and file is 34. You get 1 if you kill a rank and file. Elite is 67% counter. You get 2. And you get 3 with mini boss and boss kills, and they're guaranteed. So if you can get some really great damage out, if you can kill a mini boss with this weapon, you'll spawn 3 threadlings from Rebirth. If it's a precision kill, you'll also get the threadling spawn on top of that, so that's 4. So yeah, like if you really want to play into threadling builds, that's your 2 kind of must-have perks if you want to pair with Nightshade.
A lot of fun. If you have not given threadlings or hatchling a try since they got a buff, I highly encourage you to do so next time you're running through some playlist activities. All right. Court, you ready to move on to our next weapon here, our first special weapon of this set?
Yes, so this is Persuader, which is our Void Rapid Fire Sniper Rifle. It's 140 RPM. The frame bonus here is deeper ammo reserves. You also get that 20% reload duration multiplier when empty, so it's 20% faster when your mag's empty. Same origin traits here: Vanguard, Vindication, and Nadir Focus. So we're going to be pairing this with the Ikelos Sniper, which is the Solar Sniper from Season of the Seraph, that's 19. We have Father's Sins, which is the Void Sniper from the Witch Queen expansion, so that's going to be our kind of direct competitor, but you'll see it's not really Father's Sins that's the direct competitor in this regard. But we have 32 range, which actually makes it first out of 3. We've got 35 stability, which is second to Ikelos' 39, 63 handling, third to Ikelos' 67, 57 reload, joint first with Ikelos, 71 aim assistance, which is actually third to Ikelos and Father's Sins, joint first, 73. 35 zoom. Ikelos actually has a mind-blowing 45, which is like, that's remarkable. If you really want a zoomed-in scope, there you go. You've got Ikelos that gives that, but Father's Sins and Persuader are 35. And then you've got 60 recoil direction, which is actually first compared to Ikelos' 57, and final I was going to say final shape because I've got it. I've got it as FS. Father's Sins 53. So yeah, Ikelos showing its dominant stat monster, but I think Persuader's still on its tail. Let's have a little look at these perks though. So, Saint, what are you gelling with when it comes to a sniper? I know you guys were talking about snipers a little bit more of an extended commentary the last 2 episodes. We are aware that snipers aren't in a great spot at the moment, but if you were to pick this, what barrels and magazine would you pick?
Barrels and magazine, I'm thinking I'm looking at base range, and I don't think that's going to be a huge issue, even though it's at 32, that sounds really low. Zoom is so high. Well, I guess that's not as much of a factor anymore. But I'm not super worried about the range, but I would like a little bit of range of stability. I'm probably going with small bore and then something to increase my magazine size because, bullets equals DPS. I want to say that Tac Mag is probably the best option there because it is giving you that extra plus 5 stability and 10 reload speed, as well as a little bit of a mag bump. If extended mag could actually take me up 2 rounds, I think I would consider that. And yeah, there's also a couple of traits in column 3 that may be able to help you out with the reload. So if extended mag was able to get that extra 2 rounds in the magazine, not just 1, I would consider that. Otherwise, I'm going Tac.
Yep. Good choice. Same here, to be honest. Yeah, like, I just feel like we also have the right frame here. Rapid fires are the best for sniper rifles because you do have that deeper ammo reserves. So yeah, you do want to pair that with a magazine increasing perk. But yeah, that extended mag, no point. You want to go for a pendied or tac mag. Obviously want to go for tac mag because it gets more bonuses compared to pendied. For column 3 and 4, what are you kind of going for? I'm kind of looking at not a lot of really great options here. At least for like a damage build sniper, but I suppose we've got plenty of those.
Yeah, it's not looking great for the Persuader. There are a couple of options, however, if you're dealing damage. I'm not super interested in traits that are requiring me to get a lot of rapid kills with the sniper rifle because that's usually not the role that I'm fitting them into, but we do have the repulsor brace and destabilizing rounds combo if you so choose to use this weapon to clear out some rooms of enemies. The ammo reserves have gotten a lot higher for rapid fire sniper rifles, so it's not the craziest thing that you could do to take out enemies, and destabilizing rounds repulsor brace is a crazy trait combo on there. But other than that, as far as the reload type of traits go, third column, we've got rapid hit and keep away again with a massive 30 reload speed when you're at the intended range to be using a sniper anyway. So that's pretty appealing. And then also rapid hit, which is a little bit harder to proc, but does give a even larger stat boost, as well as a scalar and some buffs to stability. And the final column for damage, I'm really, high ground, which is weird. I'm still not sure how that's going to fit into things. I think it's like a fight to fight kind of scenario. And then precision instrument, which precision instrument does take a stack, so it would take almost 6 rounds out of a mag to get going, but it does go up an extra 5% over high ground to 25%. Court, what do you think about high ground? What's the vibe on high ground? Have you ever used a high ground weapon in an actual fight yet?
No. I don't know. Like, it's a weird perk because you have to obviously stand on an elevated position. You can't get the bonus if you're flying in the air, which is, I don't know if that's maybe a missed opportunity, but I suppose in PvP that might be a bit rampant to see, warlocks running around, although it is just a 10% increase in PvP compared to 20 in PvE, but I'm not entirely sure about high grounds, and I'm also not entirely sure about precision instrument. It goes up to 25% when you get your max stacks, but I think there's just a lot of kind of just moving parts that you have to deal with sustained damage, which increases precision damage. I just feel like there's just a lot of moving parts there. If you kind of miss a shot, then you're kind of...
What's the duration on a precision instrument? How long does that last for?
So it says here, the community research grants a stack of precision instrument for 1.25 seconds.
Oh.
It's 2.1 seconds on bows, which suppose, yeah, that makes sense. the sort of reload cycle of bows there. A maximum of 6 stacks. So missing removes all stacks. That's the big kind of asterisk where if you miss one shot, you're snookered. That's it. So it goes 4%, around about 4%, around about 8%, 12.5%, 16.77%, 20.83%, and then up to 25%. It's interesting, but when I say there's just a lot of moving parts, it's not a long duration, and obviously if you do miss, that's it. So I'm just not entirely keen on those 2 perks.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being a little bit more rough on Precision Instrument. I haven't played around with it, but on paper it just seems just too much for me to kind of comprehend compared to something like Focus Fury, which is you just need to hit your precision shots and you're going to get your 20% damage increase from that way. Yeah, it's a little bit lower compared to Precision Instrument, but I'm looking at Thoughtless, and even though Thoughtless is not a rapid fire sniper, it's in the kinetic slot as well. It's a stasis weapon. I'm just thinking I'm going to be picking Thoughtless over this weapon anyway because of the rest of the perks here. We've got triple tap in the 4th column. It's just like I'm good. I'm good. I mean, as maybe a meme build with repulsor brace and destabilizing rounds, you could play around with that, but it's like I could probably just do that with a primary weapon, to be honest. So yeah, I think this is our first kind of miss in terms of the 4 weapons that we're talking about here. Yeah. Any other kind of comments before we move on to our second special and our last one?
I'm curious to look and see Precision Instrument versus High Impact Reserves if you were to use that in the same weapon. My mind also goes to, I think the Precision Instrument could be really good if you had a mag sustaining trait in column 3, but there's just not, because then you could really take advantage of that 25%, because otherwise I don't think it I don't want to say, well, I'll say this, I don't think that it is possible for you to reload this weapon fast enough for you to continue to keep Precision Instrument up unless you had rapid hit all the way up and 100 reload speed plus some other additional reload scaler. And that is just asking way too much to try to keep a trait up. Maybe if that timer was just 2.1 seconds period instead of just on bows, like that's a little more forgiving. But yeah, that's just really demanding, man. Too short.
Foundry says with max rapid hit, you've got tac mag, reload speeds at 100. Is there anything else that you could bring in here? No, Nadir focus doesn't give reloads.
What are we looking at on reload time?
We're looking at reload time of 2.04 seconds.
That's just not it.
Just not quite there. Unless I'm missing something, there's nothing else I could see that would give like a scaler. You would maybe need to start pairing in something like an exotic, say, thinking of Lunafactions.
Would a Rally Barricade scaler, maybe you could get that?
So with Lunafactions, it brings it to 1.84 seconds. With a Rally, let's see.
I mean, moral of the story is this is just not looking good for Precision Instrument here.
With Rally, it's 1.66 seconds. So we're getting
forget
close.
Forget it.
Add in like on your mark, I guess.
Ophidian's aspects, and I'm using loader mods on my hands.
On your mark is another slight increase, 1.54 seconds.
Dude.
So no
way.
This is getting ridiculous. The amount of things you have to pair. So no. Yeah, if we had something, to your point about if we had something that just kept sustaining the magazine, I think that would be a great pairing. I don't think we've got anything in the game that has that particular pairing. Obviously, Precision Instrument's it's a new perk for this season. So yeah, a lot of the other weapons are primary weapons anyway. Luna Regolith, which I know you guys were talking about last time, that does have Precision Instrument, and it's got triple tap as well.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that pairing. Like that triple tap should not be in column 4. It should be in column 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit of a miss here with Persuader. It's got the right sniper rifle frame, but the perks leave much to be desired, to be honest.
Yeah. Let's
All right.
Let's move on to our last Vanguard weapon, huh?
Yes, Deadpan Delivery, which is our arc aggressive shotgun. That's 55 RPM. No frame bonus here, just high damage, high recoil. Same origin traits, Vanguard's Vindication and Nadir Focus. We're going to pair this with Last Man Standing, which is the Reckoning weapon from Season 21. Hand in Hand, which is the Season 20 Well Drop. That's your what's the origin trait on that again?
Hand in Hand.
It's the shotgun from Season 20.
Are you talking about field tested?
Yeah, field tested. That's it.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And Mindbender's Ambition. So some interesting shotguns here in that same slot. So 19 range. This is actually third to Mindbender's 29, and Last Man Standing's 26. 23 stability, which is second to Mindbender's 29. 26 handling, which is joint second with Hand in Hand to Mindbender's 31. 30 reload, which is actually last to Mindbender's 39. 31 AA, which is third to Mindbender's 39, and 65 recoil direction, which is third to Hand in Hand 72. So Mindbender's, with it being a kind of your Nightfall drop, it's going to have much better stats. It is the stat monster here. But let's see if we can improve on this. Now, I'm not really a big believer, not believer, but I'm not a big fan of shotguns in PvE. With me being a hunter, I'm up close and personal, but I'm using my melees, or I'm using my abilities here rather than my shotgun. So, Mr. Titan, what can you recommend for barrels and magazines here? Now, I know, like, for magazine, Assault Mag is probably going to be the go-to, because you can get that +5 rounds per minute and the stability. But what else are we recommending here?
I'm really immediately focusing in on full choke, because that is decreasing my spread by just under 4%, which isn't a ton, but similarly to some other stuff like impact casing, sometimes every little percent that you can get out of a weapon counts. Like you said, it's gotta be Assault Mag. I would like more handling on the weapon, and there are some other ways to get that, but yeah, full choke is just too valuable in my barrel, and Assault Mag, that 5 RPM and that 15 stability, it's just really nice. It's never not gonna feel good and applicable. And yeah, I think that, I know that you've been playing a little bit more punchy these days. Hunters, you got some strong punches. There's a couple combos here that I think are going to be of major interest in PvE, and that is probably going to be, I would say, Overflow right off the bat for my magazine size that can go up to double, taking that from a projected 4 to 8. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but these do usually have pretty small magazine sizes, so Overflow would be nice. And looking at Elemental Capacitor maybe for some extra handling if you want to be swapping on and off. Arc would be giving you an extra 50 handling, I believe, which is kind of crazy. But then again, something like Strand is only giving you +20 airborne effectiveness, which is just not very appealing. In which case, I think something like Surplus would have you much better off for its benefits, stability, handling, and reload speed. And Corda, I think you know where I'm going with column 4 here. That is actually going to pair with that Strand class pretty well, and that is 1-2 punch, a trait that remains strong on shotguns through the ages, especially for your very punchy builds. Increases melee damage for about 1.25 seconds after hitting a target with all of your pellets. 100% increase in your unpowered melee damage, and a 40% bump in your powered melee damage. Pretty strong. Yeah,
I was just...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you ever get in a little 1-2 punch, Arc Hunter build? What's going on there?
Yes, it's still in the game. If you do pair 1-2 punch with, say, Liar's Handshake, you are getting reduced effectiveness. That's a good thing to point out with these builds. You're still doing more damage compared to if you weren't. But I have been known to dabble with the 1-2 punch Liar's Handshake, so that's probably what I'm going to go for. And with this, if I'm on an Arc subclass, obviously, I'm getting that plus 50 handling. So that brings me up to 76. But if I wasn't going for 1-2 punch, if I was going for a trench barrel, I do obviously get that maximized handling up to 100, because you get 30 reload speed plus 30 handling for 5 seconds, plus that 50% increased damage for 3 shots, which is basically all the magazine, plus, or I should say, not firing for 5 seconds. So yeah, that's 100 handling already, 60 reload speed. I haven't picked any perks or magazines. Put in assault mag, brings up my stability by 15. You also get that increased rounds per minute. If you do go for full choke, very interesting build. If you want to play into your melee based builds, you've got 1-2 punch, you've got trench barrel there. Some great perks. Overflow, if you want to increase those that magazine count as well. I certainly wouldn't scoff at this weapon dropping. If it dropped with elemental capacitor or overflow plus 1-2 punch or trench barrel, I'd be like, okay, I'll take this out for a little spin.
Yeah.
Because aggressive frame shotguns, their impact base number is 80. So you're going to be doing a lot of damage. If you pair that with trench barrel or 1-2 punch, lots of damage being output.
I've seen a lot of Strand Titan melee focused 1-2 punch focused builds on people going for low man Queers of Crota's End, because of just the way that you can stack up Sentos 1-2 punch and all this other stuff is quite strong.
Yeah, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, hunters may actually want to get an overflow drop instead of elemental capacitor, because you can get handling quite, there's a lot of things on Arc hunters that can give you handling. I'm just thinking of the aspects. Yeah. Let's have a little look here. So with, so that's reload. Flow state gives you reloads. You have Lethal Current, which obviously gives you your jolted. You've got a bunch of kind of synergy with, looping between combination blow plus your dodge. Pairing with some sort of amplified effects, which give you, amplified gives you plus 40, gets you that plus 50 mobility as well. You've got a handling duration multiplier of 5%, as well as the plus 40 handling, increased slide distance. So if you're really like into your hit and run builds, melee based builds with Liar's Handshake, then I think the shotgun would be really great to pair. You don't really need elemental capacitor. You can focus on trying to get that overflow drop with either trench barrel or 1-2 punch.
The last thing I want to call out here before we move on to our next weapon is a new trait in column 4 called Barrel Constrictor. Vulnerable blows with this weapon reduce the projectile spread of its next shot for a short duration. Community research here, additional supporting info on Foundry states, reduces pellet spread by 20% on weapon kills for a single shot within the next 8 seconds, which is like, obviously this is a very PvP focused, chain killing trait, but it definitely reminds me of Killing Wind. It's a bit of like a killing wind for your shotgun, which ironically this also comes with. And I think that, my head immediately went to, if you were able to really play with something like Killing Wind with Barrel Constrictor, I think that is a potentially very powerful, killed chaining weapon for the Crucible, especially for something like 6s. But there's also something like Discord in here, which is pretty interesting. If you wanted to pair that with Barrel Constrictor, you swap over the weapon, It's a lot of setup. I don't know, but it's interesting to see new traits popping up every season. Always love to see it, even if they're not always targeted at our side of the sandbox. All right. Is it? It's time to move on to some weapons that you may not have seen very much thus far in the game. We were talking about some world foundry drops. These are required randomly in activities, and we assume and are hoping going to be part of the foundry focusing that is coming up next season. We're going to kick things off here with Nox Perennial 5. This is a strand high-impact fusion rifle with that base charge time of 960 milliseconds. And being a high-impact, it has the frame bonus that if you are standing still or moving below 2.8 meters per second and you aim down sights, you will get a negative 20% to your accuracy cone size and negative 17% to your accuracy cone growth, making this feel quite accurate while in that state. Its origin trait wildcard is one that we have talked about a few times on weapons like the Malediction hand cannon that we keep referencing, and it is also showing up here on Nox Perennial 5, and we've got a few details here to support this. Court, you want to talk about wildcard and its different kind of procs and stuff like that real quick?
Yes, so kills release a varying amount of, well, we'll just call them Telesta bolts. The in-game description calls them munitions. But yeah, Telesta bolts on top of where the enemy dies. The number of bolts released depends on the enemy rank. So you'll get 1 from a rank and file, that's your trash ads. For Guardians and Elites, it's a 3 you'll get to spawn. Mini bosses and champions, there's also 3. And bosses, if you get a kill with this weapon, you'll get 7 to spawn. 7, that's kind of crazy that all these bolts just
flying everywhere.
Spawning from a... Yeah, so Telesta bolts explode on proximity or contact, deals damage that scales with the combatant rank modifiers, and last up to 10.5 seconds after embedding onto a surface in the world. There is a 6-second cooldown between each Telesta bolt spawn. Sadly, you can't, kill one trash ad, then an elite, then another trash ad, all in 3 seconds to get like 5 bolts to spawn. So they've thought about that, but yeah, that 6-second cooldown is what kind of splits up the kills here.
All right, let's talk about how this thing stacks up stat-wise. We really only have one competitor in slot. This is, again, a strand weapon, the first strand high impact fusion in our top slot. So we really only have one competitor, and it is a bit of an old one. This is a season 19 world drop. Arvendil, I believe is how you would pronounce this. It's a stasis weapon, but again, because we're limited, we are going to be using that as our competitor comparison here. Nox Perennial has 45 range, which is second, losing by 2 points to 47. It has 25 stability, which is tied, 18 handling, tied again, and 16 reload, which is just 2 points lower. So overall, pretty close to its main in-slot competitor. A little bit worse on those lower base stats, and it's definitely worse if we start comparing it to some other well-known high impacts. Your Loaded Question and Eremite that have just come out in the past 2 seasons are definitely going to beat this thing out in most stat categories. But given that it's new, again, it can get a little bit of a pass, a little bit of a break on its not absolutely top-notch stats. Court, what are you looking for on your barrel and mag? If you could pick your own in a dream scenario, you got weapon focusing, you're looking at just some Castoid weapons here. What do you want to pull for your barrel and mag on your Nox Perennial 5?
So this is a little bit of a tricky one here. Now, it's not a little, it's a lot different compared to PvP. I'm choosing definitely different perks, but for PvE, I suppose not a lot of things really matter here. This is a high impact, so it's got reasonably good range in the first place. So you could kind of dive into that. If you want to bring up your handling, you could go fluted barrel for that range increase. You've got plus 15 from full bore. though that does bring down your stability and your handling by -10 and -5 respectively. Small bore for that, just +7 to range and stability again, and a arrowhead brake to really close up your recoil direction and get that handling. So I'm probably going to go for that arrowhead brake, just really close up the recoil direction. And then for batteries, this is kind of like an age-old question when it comes to fusion rifles. More important for PvP, but for PvE, really depends on what's the kind of vibe you want to go down. Accelerated coils here decreases the charge time by 40 milliseconds, so it brings it down to 927. But you also decrease your damage by 2%. You could go for liquid coils, which is the inverse. It increases your charge time by 40, but also increases your damage by 2%. So that's probably what I'm going to go for. Again, it'd be a lot different if this is PvP, but for PvE, it doesn't really matter that your charge time's that huge in the first place because it's a high impact. So you want to really extrapolate as much damage out here. You got any kind of hot picks here for the barrel and the batteries?
Normally, I'm always going with liquid or accelerated, just kind of depending on how I want to, how I want to go with a weapon like this. In this case, though, I may be going ionized battery for the +2 to the mag, and that is going to send my reload speed just straight to the Shadow Realm and a total of 0. But there is a trait in the third column that may make a reload stat of 0 not so bad.
I see where you're going.
We're talking Envious Assassin. Envious Assassin is a good trait that just got better this season. Defeating targets with other weapons before drawing this one transfers ammo to the magazine from reserve. This can overflow the mag based on the number of targets defeated. This is maxing out at, I think, what I want to say, it's not just 100, or is it 150%, right? Not just 100% increase, but like 1.5 times your mag, right?
Yeah.
And it just got a little bit easier, more forgiving to proc. So, man, that's really strong. And there's some scenarios where this is really going to make sense. I think, especially when you're coming into like the DPS conversation, kind of like we referenced the other day. But we've got some other strong options in column 3, I would say. Also looking at here, a threat detector and lead from gold. Court, what's your preference here?
Yeah, to be honest, I think this is definitely a great kind of candidate for, it doesn't really matter, accelerated coils or liquid coils. Go for ionized battery to get that magazine up. Doesn't matter that your reload's at 0 because you're going to be playing in with Envious Assassin here. Now, I do have an Envious Assassin roll in my vault, but it's Elemental Capacitor that I have in my 4th slot. It's nothing like damage, and just one off, considering Controlled Burst is right below it. I think this is going to be a very interesting fusion rifle to kind of see how it performs in these discussions of, high impacts versus rapid fires. That's been a lot of kind of conversation that I've seen at least in the Discord, but I think extended beyond that, of what's better when it comes to, a damage dealing fusion rifle, because they are really great for DPS within specific scenarios. And just this conversation between high impact versus rapid fire, this is like a cracked fusion rifle to take into a damage scenario, because you do have that Envious Assassin, and then you've got Controlled Burst, which is just upon scoring a hit with every bolt in your burst grants 20% increased damage and 10% decreased charge time for 2 seconds. So it's I want to get that roll. I want to see how it performs. I'm okay with high impacts. I know not everyone's. This is why the big conversation between high impact versus rapid fire. Rapid fire, in terms of damage dealing, is lower than Nox Perennial, even though it's a faster firing rate fusion rifle, but it's a lot more accessible compared to high impacts, which I completely understand. It's very slow firing, charge time is 3 business days. So but I think with the pairing of standing still, you get more accurate when you're stationary. You've got that control burst. You've got an envious assassin. You're doing a lot of damage here, so I really want to get that roll. That's one thing that I've been very interested in. Any kind of final thoughts here, Saint?
I'm really excited to be able to craft this because I have a loaded question that I've been using at the moment because of kind of like you're talking about. It may take a little bit to get used to, but that total damage output is just obscene for these high-impact fusion rifles with controlled burst. I am so keen on getting the Nox Perennial, though, because it occupies a different loadout slot, and it opens up my energy slot then for a whole new, set and slew of weapons. So I like it. I am definitely going to be targeting one of these, though, so I have some more options in my loadout space, and I think, the only other thing I'd probably take on this is like a lead from gold, and I think collective action. We also have threadling or hatchling here, leading to threadlings, but I don't know if it's going to be super easy to spray with this one as it would be maybe with a adaptive or rapid fire fusion, where it's a little easier to maybe get some rapid kills or to spray around. So Envious Assassin and Control Burst, no doubt the number one pick. I would take a Lead from Gold and Collective Action if I happen to come upon it. And at this rate, I'm going to be lucky to get whatever I can get on this thing. So if you have been lucky enough to get this roll on Nox Perennial 5, please, message us, show us some screenshots, the website formerly known as Twitter, whatever you got. I would love to see and know that it is real and that it does in fact exist out there. All right. Next up, we've got a pulse rifle. How are things looking here as we jump back over to some primary weapons, Court?
Yes, we've got Psi Hermetic 5. It is a stasis high-impact pulse rifle. It's 340 RPM. The frame bonus, same as before. It's if standing still or moving at or below 2.8 meters per second and aiming down sight, you get some nice accuracy cone goodness. A lot more stable if you're standing still or moving slowly. Same origin trait here, wild card. I think you'll be maybe exploiting this a little bit more often compared to the fusion rifle, kind of as we've been kind of ferrying a lot of traffic down the damage potential for Nox Perennial. This is going to be a little bit more of a kind of workhorse. So we're going to be pairing it with its most direct competitor here, which is New Purpose, which is also stasis, and it is from the Duality Dungeon from last year. So 61 range versus 65, 48 stability versus 54, 26 handling, which is the same. 34 reload, it's higher than its New Purpose's 31. 32 aim assist, which is the same. And it's got a higher recoil direction of 75 versus 70. So, so New Purpose, being a dungeon weapon, it does have, in general, better stats. But, to be honest, size it's not too far off. So let's have a look at perk combinations here. What's the perks department saying here? I'll kick us off here with the barrels and magazines. So again, so this has got 61 range from the get-go. So if you want to really play out those, again, I'm going to recommend something like full bore. That's plus 15. You do tank your stability and handling. You can go for something like small bore again with that plus 7 stability and range. I don't think it's really, Arrowhead break gets you up to that perfect 100 for recoil direction plus that 10 handling. So I'm not entirely sure what I'd go for. I'm not really that fussy when it comes to barrels for a pulse rifle here. I'll take what I get, especially if it's a random rare drop, because you can then, of course, go down the route of accurized rounds for the magazine. If you want to increase your magazine, you've got tac mag there, extended mag. It does really tank your reload speed down to 14 with the extended mag. But I think, to be honest, for me, it's more the perks, the column 3 and column 4 perks here. Saint, you got any kind of comments on magazines and barrels?
I think that you can get away with going for something like Arrowhead Break in accurized rounds and just totally focusing on your recoil direction and your range, giving like just a little bit of handling there, because there are a few different ways to get really high handling on what traditionally would be a really low handling weapon. So if you don't get good handling options in your barrel and mag, it's okay. We can make up for that a little bit in our third and fourth columns, which I'll kick things off here and say we mentioned elemental capacitor, which can give that plus 50 if you are on arc. And then we also have enlightened action here. And now, where it was not such a shining through trait earlier, I definitely think that this is jumping up now because of, as opposed to I think it was the lightweight frame pulse, right? That we were discussing this on earlier, that plus 50 to handling and reload speed just got way more valuable to me, and kind of also depends on what I'm going to get in the final column. But yeah, Court, what do you with me? Enlightened action looking a little better these days.
For this pulse rifle, absolutely, that was what I was going for. I think the other choices are not. I mean, Outlaw's there again if you want to play into the whole really fast reload, but I don't think it's like, it's a little bit more specific compared to something like Enlightened Action, where you just deal damage and you get reload speed and handling for free. So yeah, for me, column 4, I'm just looking at the new purposes perks. Yeah, quite well. We've got Headstone here, which is also on Psi, but very interesting to see perk motion in column 4 for a pulse rifle, primary pulse rifle. But what's really kind of highlighted for me is Golden Tricorn is here. Now, Stasis isn't quite in a great spot at the moment, especially when you are spawning Stasis Crystal, shards. But I'm on a hunter, and it's it's relatively easy to spawn Stasis shards. I think for Titans as well, just crashing into frozen enemies, you get that. You get your Stasis shards that way as well. So that's what I'm going for. I would really like to get a Golden Tricorn roll here to get that potential 50%. Going to be hitting really hard with this pulse rifle.
I agree, and you got to build into it a little bit, but to your point, it's not too hard to get Golden Tricorn kills. Plus, the other kind of two main options here I'm looking at are Frenzy and Headstone, like you had mentioned. Now, if I'm going with Frenzy, then all of a sudden, Enlightened Action kind of just plays into that, and Frenzy just gives me the equivalent of around plus 15 handling and reload speed and 15% damage, which is still good. But yeah, pairing Enlightened Action with Golden Tricorn, I'm getting that damage buff up consistently. I'm getting my handling and reload speed are in the mid 80s. It just really works well together. And I think that same sentiment would remain true for Enlightened Action in Headstone, which doesn't require that you're dealing, Headstone triggers off precision damage, but you don't have to keep dealing precision damage in order to keep Enlightened Action up, which would, I don't have one yet. I have a couple of good rolls of this, which I've been lucky to get. Enlightened Action Frenzy, which is nice, but yeah, would really love Enlightened Action with Headstone or Golden Tricorn. I'm with you there, Cord. That would probably feel really good.
Yeah, I don't have much rolls for this. It's actually Nox Perennial, which has been dropping quite a lot for me, but I only have a... where is it? Yeah, it's in my Hunter just now. Yeah, I've got more of a kind of PvP build here. I've got like Moving Target and Head Seeker compared to anything like for PvE, but yeah, I'd really want to get like Enlightened Action and Golden Tricorn. I'll take Frenzy as well. Frenzy is just such a great like workhorse perk. And yeah, I just want to see all those Telesto bolts spawning.
Yeah,
it's fun. Some damage in.
It is fun.
All right, we have our first of our other two Nadir weapons here. We have a sidearm, Saint.
That's right. We have Heliocentric QSC. This is a solar lightweight frame sidearm that plus 20 mobility and 6.25% forward movement speed, and it's also got that Nadir origin trait. I know that this weapon is near and dear to a certain weapons designer, a friend of the show, if you will. When we compare its base stats, our closest peer, so to say, is going to be that Redback 5 SI. It is also solar. And then we also have spoiler alert from one season before that, which is kinetic, but I thought including in here as a good reference point, since we only had one other competitor. It's got a base of 27 range, which is 3 point behind Redback at 30, but significantly better than spoiler alert, which only has 17. 46 stability, which is the highest by 3 points. 65 handling, a second to Redback, which has 2 more points up at 67. 51 reload, again, second to Redback by just a couple points. And 94 recoil direction, which is the highest by 5 points. So really, hitting maybe just 2 points above or 3 points below, or 2 points above and 3 points below when you compare it to Redback. So quite close, quite comparable, even if it may be a little bit worse in some of these categories, and definitely beats out, spoiler alert, the Vanguard weapon, which I think is one of the only really easily obtainable lightweight sidearms at this point. So it definitely is honestly entering a pool that hasn't seen a weapon in around 5 seasons or 6 seasons, so not a ton of lightweight sidearms out there at the moment. Court, what are you looking to buff up on your barrel and mag for this thing? What are we looking for?
Well, me being the resident sidearm enthusiast, not really actually. I'm not actually. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure here. Again, it's just another weapon type where I'll take what I get when it comes to PvE. And to be honest, I've already got my God Rolls sidearm, and that's Brigand's Law. It's a rapid fire compared to this being a lightweight, but yeah, I don't know really. I probably kind of bring up the range a little bit. Again, this is just my personal preference when it comes to weapons. I like to have a higher range, just to kind of offset the damage fall off stat. Yeah, the handling's already pretty high. You've got reload speed's 51. It's already going to be pretty fast on the sidearm anyway. Stability's at 46. Yeah, recoil direction's at 94. I'm not really sure what I'd pick for a barrel. With this being a sidearm, probably go for a magazine increasing perk like extended mag or even tac mag. Just kind of bump it up to. But I'm more interested in the perks here. I don't know what would you suggest for barrels and magazine?
Yeah, I'm probably going all range, and I would go. I would be happy with the tac mag for a few extra bullets. I think would be the ideal mag. Unless I go alloy mag. And that's kind of a weird pick considering there's only 12 rounds. But there is a trait in column 3 that I may be wanting to take advantage of and reloading a lot. Court, what do you what's the vibe there?
All right. Are you talking about heel clip by any chance? And also you could pair that with kill clip.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, so you've got column 3, heel clip is here. We've been talking a lot about enlightened action as well. That's also here. You could pair that if you don't manage to get that heel clip roll. You could get the enlightened action plus kill clip to really kind of maximize out your handling and your reloads. Plus even at 4 stats, you're almost maxed out. Not even including, alloy mag, which gives you a scalar of 15%. Demo is here. I'm quite interested in seeing demo in column 3. If you do have a grenade-based build, because Adrenaline Junkie is in column 4. Surrounded is also here. If you get up close and personal, I know I've suggested that with a few sidearms in the past, because it's just by nature with sidearms being a close quarters weapon. Yeah, it kind of makes sense to have something like Surrounded. Precision Instrument as well as a damage weapon perk, but again, I just don't really see myself really using this on a sidearm of all the weapons that does show up. And of course, you've got just good old workhorse here. You've got Frenzy. But yeah, I think the pairing here would definitely be heal clip and kill clip. Incandescent here for your kind of hot swapping, but to be honest, I think there's just other weapons that thinking of Callus Mini Tool that does incandescent a lot better compared to a sidearm. But yeah, that heal clip kill clip role is so far is on another weapon which we'll talk about next week. It's on one of the Crota's Ends weapons, but so far that's a unique combo of having the double clip traits.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I'm also looking at Frenzy for my heel clip combo, which is the trait set that I will be looking for in an Igneous Hammer whenever things mellow out a little bit and I go back in for the first Trials card in a long while, as that will just pump my reload speed. Our reload speed is already pretty good at 51 base. I want to crank that up all the way to 100. And if you use the alloy mag, your reload speed is under a second there. So you're reloading a lot, but it's really quick. And I know that you pointed out Enlighten Action in column 3 too. And yeah, I would pair maybe Enlighten Action and Incandescent, or Enlighten Action Adrenaline Junkie, Demo Adrenaline Junkie. There's so many, honestly, several different really strong trait combos in here. Demo AJ, really solid from a PvE trait standpoint, and I'm sure that there's some good combos in here to be used for PvP as well, like that heal clip kill clip would be awesome, in either sandbox. But yeah, pretty solid showing for the first rapid or lightweight frame Sunarm we've seen in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, we got one more.
Yeah, I've got last one for the legendary weapons before we cover the two exotic craftable weapons. This is the Geodetic HSM, and if you're not sure what that is, because the name doesn't give any clue, it's the Void Adaptive Sword, and so the adaptive swords are your uppercut attack. Now, with the revamped sword perks, so third-party apps and websites like Light.gg and D2 Foundry are only really showing partial results, or not really currently supporting swords at the moment, outside of just basic perks. So some of the values that we are going to give here may be a little bit off, just with them removing a few of the stats, then kind of bumping things around. So a lot of kind of theoretical talk here. So, this being a Nadir weapon, it does have that origin trait, which increases its lunge distance instead of any other stats here. I have actually used this, and the lunge distance is quite far. It's kind of like a passive eager edge. It's quite a distance.
That far?
Yeah. Maybe not as far as eager edge, but because you can keep using it after that kind of trigger point, you can just keep sword kind of dashing along. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's the same distance as eager edge, but because you can just keep doing it, you kind of get you get the same amount of distance covered. So this sword is very unique. In fact, I was thinking about this just before we started recording. When I was looking at the script here, I was like, this has got some weird stats. In the sense of, like, compared to all the other swords, with the exception of Bequest. So this has 62 impacts, which is +2 versus all other legendary swords, except Bequest, which is 70. It's got 40 swing speed, and it's got 47 charge rate, which is +7. +27 versus all other legendaries. Bequest also has 70, which is just weird that this World Drop Nadir sword is technically now the second best from a base stat point of view. It's the second best legendary sword without any like added perks here.
Yeah.
So
breaking all
very
the rules.
Interesting. Yeah. Quite basic when it comes to like perks here. For the blade, I think we're still going to recommend something like Jagged Edge. Yes, it brings down your ammo count, but you get that +4 impact. So if you really want to use this as a damage potential sword, then you do need to get that +4 impact, which directly affects your your damage output. So jagged edge for max damage, and for your guard, I think we're still going to suggest Swordmaster's guard for that plus 10 charge rate. You get that plus 10 guard resistance and plus 40 endurance as well. Maybe we might need to revisit some of the swords just to kind of gauge how they are post sword changes, and see if we can maybe tweak with some of the guards. I know you're doing like up to like 97.5% DR if you get your guard resistance up to 100. So, if you're thinking of something along those lines, you'd maybe want to go for something like Enduring Guard, which gives you that plus 90 from the get-go. But I think we'll cover that in due course. So, Saint, with this particular sword, what main perks are we thinking here?
I've got plenty of damage DPS focused swords, so it's time to have some fun with this guy right here. And what better trait combo to just get up and personal and have some fun than Repulsor Brace in the third column and Destabilizing Rounds in the fourth column. The way that this pairs in with that Void Titan build is just absolutely meant to be. And it is a lot of fun to just swipe your way through a group of enemies and watch everything explode while you gain overshields and decrease your grenade cooldown. Because, man, is that just a strong build. And when you have a weapon like this that can play into it, if you are, maybe you're making up for some damage elsewhere in your build, you're running Synthos Bonk, you're running a really strong super, you're gathering Storm, whatever it may be. This is really a delight to use, I am sure, because I enjoy it a lot on the weapons that I do have it on, and I'm definitely going to be targeting a geodetic, right? Sword with that trait combo on there.
Yeah, that is, I think, out of all the weapons that have rolled Repulsor Brace and destabilizing rounds, this is definitely like the best one to pair it with. This is the easiest, the path of least resistance when it comes to just slaying out and watching a bunch of void explosions behind you. It's just great. You get your overshield back, and then you just keep triggering with that. If you're a hunter, you can also pair that with Stylus Executioner as well, one of the aspects. You can just go really a lot of fun. I think in kind of maybe mid-tier content, this would be a really great one to take in, see how it performs. And if you want to try and go for something like 100 guard endurance, resistance, then you would maybe, burst guard to get that plus 80 guard resistance, if those numbers are correct, to get the DR, and you can really maybe try and make it work in GMs, or like at least master content. See if you can make that work. I'm just thinking as a hunter, definitely with Stylus Executioner, because that volatility will just keep triggering Stylus Executioner. Pair it with Gerfalcons, which is another way to get volatility. It will give you volatile rounds, a way to shoot down, or not shoot down, but to sword down, slice down a barrier champion. So it's the Void Lament. But I was going to say, like, if you don't want to go down that damage route, if you don't have any other swords here that you don't have your classic combo of, say, Relentless Strikes and Whirlwind Blade, that is here. That is on this. You've got One for All on this sword as well. I think that's a really great perk to pair. 35% free damage for just killing, or I should say hitting 3 separate targets. Pretty free. Collective action here. It's great to see. It's 20%, not as high as One for All, not as high as the potential you could get from 10 stacks with Whirlwind Blade, which is 30%. Some really great perks here. Very interesting to see all kind of 4 of these Foundry World drops: Nox Perennial, Psi, Hermetic, Heliocentric, and Geodetic here. They all got some really interesting rolls, but they're quite rare. Rare to get.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest complaint is that people. I heard somebody the other day say, "Oh, there's a new strand fusion," and I think I think it was kind of a joke, but at the same time, when you have been playing enough to be whatever halfway through your season pass, and it's 4 or 5 weeks into the season, you've seen a singular drop of a weapon. It's pretty easy to forget that it's even in the game, and that focusing is going to be a very welcome addition. And I really hope it includes these guys that we just covered, because like you said, pretty much all of them have solid options for one, if not both, of the sandboxes in the game.
I think, yeah, all four, I would really like to just have a great role. And I would, like, I'm just looking at, like, Nox Perennial is something that would happily sit in my, like, my character, like, stole, just to have whenever I want to, like, burst down or even potentially sustain a damage target. So, yeah, all four of these are very interesting. Yeah. Well, next up, we have our last two weapons that we'll be breaking down. A little bit of kind of a quicker segment here, just because they are exotics. We don't really need to compare them with anything. They're static in the sense that they're exotic weapons, and there's only a few picks, at least on DMT, that we're going to suggest, and I suppose one on Dead Messenger. But yeah, let's kick us off with Dead Man's Tale. So acquire these. To acquire these exotic weapons, you need to do it through the exotic mission rotators. We've already discussed that in previous episodes. So DMT is Presage, Dead Messenger is Vox Obscura, and Revision 0 is Seraph Shield. We already discussed Revision 0 back in Season 19, and it's not had a perk pool refresh, so we're not going to be talking about it. We'll just focus on DMT and Dead Messenger here. Dead Man's Tale. It's the Kinetic 120, the original aggressive frame scout rifle. Reloads 2 bullets at a time. That's the sort of exotic, or the frame trait, I suppose. Cranial Spike is its first exotic perk here. So precision hits grant a stack of Cranial Spike, which provides bonuses per stack. You get +8 range, +4 aim assistance, and +3% reload duration multiplier and damage increase. So to put it in perspective, you'll get +40 range times 5, +20 aim assist, and then 0.86x reload duration multiplier. So that's 14% at max stacks. Dark Forge Trigger Catalyst, that is your 0.92x hip fire recovery delay. That's, in basic terms, that's faster firing while hip firing. This increases to 0.67x hip fire recovery delay at 5x cranial spike. So again, that's 33%. Essentially faster fire. It's a little bit more nuanced compared to just saying it fires faster. There's a little bit more technicality behind that, but that in the basic terms, that's what's happening here. And obviously, you get your tighter hip fire accuracy cone size and slower accuracy cone growth. So basically, hip firing is the way to go when using this. When you've got your stacks of cranial spike. So some perk changes actually compared to when this was a static role, when you could farm out for various roles. It no longer has subsistence, and they've added compulsive reloader and shoot to loot in its place. All right, Saint, so what are we kind of thinking for the barrel and magazine here for DMT?
Personally, I am going to be looking at reload speed, or that's definitely going to be consideration, as well as handling. Handling starts off at down at around 50, so fluted barrel would be a really nice +15 bump there. And then in the mag, I know I could be going for something like armor piercing rounds or another rounds option that would give me some nice stat boost, but Flared Magwell is giving +15 reload speed, and just due to the nature of how this weapon reloads and how fast you can go through ammo while you're using it, I think that Flared Magwell is probably going to be my go-to choice here, and try to get that reload speed up to about 65, and then combine that with the benefits that you get from Cranial Spike, which is about a 14% multiplier, decrease in your reload rate, or increase in your reload speed, I guess is how I should say that. I think between those two, you can get that down very easily. What about you, Court? You going for extra range, or are you just gonna wait to get your cranial spike stacked up for that?
I think, I'm not entirely sure what I would go for this. I wouldn't really be like swapping back and forth, just with the way Dead Man's Tale, it kind of rewards you for staying on it with cranial spikes. So yeah, getting your cranial spike up to ×5 does give you that maxed range stat anyway, but also then gives you that reload duration multiplier. So I don't know if I would pair it with, say, Flared Magwell, though Flared Magwell does give you higher aim assistance on top of cranial spikes as well, as does, it gives you that +5 stability. But I may go for something like high cal rounds or ricochet rounds. High cal just for that, staggering your low tier trash ads if they don't die outright. But for me, again, it's like I'm not entirely fussy. Yeah, I'll be kind of curating whatever I want for the barrel of the magazines. Now this is craftable, but for me, it's the column. I say column 3 perk, but this is your main perks. There is an additional perk here. You've also got your stocks. So you've got hand lathe stock, which is +10 stability, short action stock, which is +15 handling, composite stock, which is +5 stability and handling, and then fitted stock, which is your +10 stability and -5 handling, but you also get +11 recoil direction. I say +11, but it's maximized out to the recoil direction. I'm not entirely sure how much its fitted stock's actually giving here. What stock would you prefer?
Yeah, it's gotta be the recoil direction increase. If not, I think maybe hand laid stock for just +10 stability. But even then, fitted stock is giving me it's a little bit of a detractor to my handling, but it's giving that same +10 to stability and maxing out that recoil direction. Hard to pass up.
With your sort of main perk selection here, so we've got Outlaw, 4th time's the charm, compulsive reloader, killing wind, moving target, vorpal weapon, rapid hit, and shoot to loot. What are you feeling? What's the vibe here? Now, I kind of looked at 4th time's the charm, but then it was just like, I'm going to be reloading this a lot anyway, so I don't necessarily see, like, you could pair 4th time's the charm with cranial spike, because you are getting that damage increase with cranial spike as well. But I was thinking more other perks. What are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm more drawn towards rapid hit is fine, and vorpal could be good if you're going to be using this a lot to stun champs, depending on the season. Scout rifles are frequently artifact mod impacted for champions. But shoot to loot kind of seems like the go-to utility trait here. I'm really drawn to that one. If I'm not gonna, vorpal and rapid hit I think are solid choices. Outlaw does last for much longer than rapid hit. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that rapid hit could fall off too quickly before you could get everything reloaded. So maybe Outlaw would be the better one there for just purely reload. Vorpal I get for the utility, but probably shoot to loot is top choice for me. How about you?
Yeah, shoot to loot's definitely the utility perk. I'm not really sad that subsistence has been removed, but like it's been replaced by compulsive reloader and shoot to loot. So shoot to loot now works with Orbs of Power. So like this is your long range. If you're doing like challenge runs, if you're doing flawless runs, I know a lot of teams like to use shoot to loot with their weapons because you just pick up your ammo, you pick up your Orbs of Power from afar. So this is definitely going to be a great weapon to pair with shoot to loot. But if you want to go down the route of damage, I think Vorpal weapon, that 20%, don't forget 20% on primary weapons, compared to special having 15 and heavy having 10. It's like 3 damage for just hitting champions, mini bosses, and vehicles. But yeah, I'm probably going to craft 2 and have one that's vorpal and one that's shoot to loot for your damage and your utility rolls here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have our last weapon here, Saint.
We do, and it is the Dead Messenger, the multi-element waveframe special GL with the fundamentals trait, allowing you to cycle through our Void, Solar, and Arc for plus 25 handling and 5 range for Arc, plus 35 reload speed and 20 aerial effectiveness for Solar. Yep. And then 20 stability and 10 aim assist for Void. We also have its classic kind of trinary vision exotic perk, or its staple trait. The projectile creates 3 elemental waves that split out upon collision with the ground, so it kind of does its little prong there. And then for its catalyst, we have Turnabout. Breaking Combatant's Shield grants a 30 HP overshield for 10 seconds. And this thing also got a little bit of an update, but not really a huge one. I think starting off, I'll just say real quick, quick launch plus 10 velocity and 15 handling, and then high velocity rounds for 10 velocity and plus 10 reload speed are going to be your barrel and mag options there. And then we go into, you have stock, and you have 3 main traits to choose from as opposed to DMT's edition. So I guess, I'll just pass it over to you real quick and say, stock, what are you looking to bump up? And then which one of our 3 traits will you be picking from in our final list here?
Well, I think it's probably just going to be, what are we looking at? Yeah, it's going to be short action stock, because that's only really one that's mattering here, because it's got plus 15 handling, compared to composite stock, which is plus 5 stability and plus 5 handling. Handlaid stocks plus 10 stability. Like stability is not the play here, because it's a one-shot weapon here. And yeah, fitted stocks plus 10 stability, minus 5 handling. Oh, no. Plus 20 recoil direction. You don't need recoil direction on a GL. This is where someone's going to yell at me in the Discord and say, actually, recoil direction has some weird trait on grenade launchers, on breach loading grenade launchers, just to say. So yeah, short action stock for your plus 15 handling. It makes sense. This is a one and done. Swap somewhere else and then come back to it. But yeah, the main trait here, you've got Thresh, you've got Unrelenting, you've got Demo. The one that I've picked is Unrelenting, but I know there's a use case here for Demo. If you want to play into your kind of grenade-based builds, because with this, it will grant, it's just 10% for GLs. It's snipers, shotguns, glaives, and fusion rifles that grant 20%. So you're going to have to kill up to 10 enemies to get your grenade back. But obviously you can use your grenade ability to refill the magazine with Dead Messenger. Which one of the two there? We've kind of glided past Thresh. I don't really see much use for Thresh and Dead Messenger, but what's the vibe? Unrelenting versus Demo.
Yeah, I'm going Unrelenting as well, and part of that is because of that 10 versus 20%, like you talked about. If Demo was 20% on GLs as well as these other special weapons, I'm maybe going down that direction. But because if I'm using the solar version of the fundamentals trait that we had spoken about just a second ago, I can get my reload speed all the way up to 95. Don't really need the reload from Demo, and it's only giving 10% instead of 20. So I'm going to Unrelenting, because Unrelenting also gets me a little bit closer to another GL that only deals arc damage and also shoots in a waveframe, and came out right around the same time that I think Dead Messenger, unfortunately, will still struggle to compete with, despite the fact that it now has Turnabout and Unrelenting. That's great, and it's really versatile with its Singe. You can, not Singe, Overcharge, you could use this pretty much any time, cycling through the elements, but I think they could have done a little bit more in the perk set for Dead Messenger here, Court.
So I'm interested. What perks would you like to have seen on this? Any perk from any weapon within reason, obviously, not illegal perks that we've been seeing over the weekend, but like what other grenade launcher perks would you have liked to have seen on this?
I mean, let's just go all the way and give another few traits alongside Turnabout. Let's put Adrenaline Junkie in there to pair with Demo. That just is like all of a sudden there's this whole new loop that this thing pairs into that I don't think a ton of grenade launchers can tap into that exact feed. And let's just put Chain Reaction on there with Unrelenting and actually give the the most dominant special weapon in the game.
That's definitely
legal. There's a line there, I guess, which maybe we don't want to power creep past Forbearance, but man, if Forbearance is going to stay in the game the way that it is, and Dead Messenger is an exotic, why shouldn't it be slightly more effective in certain scenarios and powerful, if you will?
I feel like they could have added a few more. Something like Envious Assassin, because Harsh Language I was looking at just now, that's our Void waveframe as well. That's got Harsh Language. You've got Field Prep there as well. I started looking at like the elemental perks like Repulsor Brace, but that wouldn't really make a lot of sense for if you're not on a Void. Like I'm not sure technically if that could work in the first place. Even like something like Golden Tricorn I think would have been fine to put on this, but then it's like how far do you go? You're just adding perks from other weapons onto this exotic. Like the exotic feeling may start kind of wane compared to this is just Harsh Language, but it shoots out 3 waves instead of 1. So I just feel like they could have added just a 1 or 2 more perks here and there. And to your point, like Demo and Adrenaline Junkie would have been a very interesting combination. A little bit disappointed. I'm probably not going to use Dead Messenger because Forbearance is in the game. So
what's just come to mind when you mentioned destabilizing rounds just a second ago is the fundamentals perk. But what if the fundamentals perk on this weapon was a similar trait, but instead functioned more like our exotic Warlock robes, Chromatic Fire, where Solar would give, Incandescent, Arc would give, I don't know, Blind or Volt Shot, let's say, on Reload, which we've already seen on Prodigal Return, and then you could even go destabilizing rounds on Void.
Yeah, so like a kind of mini rework to Dead Messenger. Yeah, I think I'd seen a few commentary and like kind of Reddit submissions kind of asking for the fundamentals to get that sort of treatment. So Hardlight would also get it. There's another Borealis as well would get that treatment where the Arc, Solar, and Void play into their elemental perks. But I would that would be fascinating to see if that was maybe something that they would see tweak with in the future, because the fundamentals perk was only really recently tweaked to add those increase to the stats.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it only really makes a difference for Hardlight. Maybe a little bit more for Borealis compared to Dead Messenger. But I do feel like Fundamentals needs a slight tweak. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that is going to be our last weapon out of a pretty long list here today. Court, any closing thoughts?
No, a lot of weapons there that very rare to get, but have some spicy rolls. I think, not a lot of misses, quite a lot of highlights here in today's episode. But we'll I think we've got another spicy episode next week in terms of weapons and talking about a specific raid. We'll be covering Crota's End. We've got some encounter tips, builds, and of course our usual weapon breakdowns. And a lot of the weapons are looking really good there. But that's it for episode 78. Let us know which well-dropped weapons you've been getting and what roles. We want to thank our patrons and sponsors, and of course our audio engineer, Autodidaktos. Until then, my name is Court. You can find me over on various social websites as Court Projects, on the Discord as Court Projects as well. You can find my infographics and my spreadsheets over on the Destiny Massive Breakdowns website, along with other applications to enhance your Destiny experience. Where can we find you, Saint?
Yep, my name is Saint Kabir. You can find me at Saint_Kabir on various social media sites and in the Massive Breakdowns Discord server that Court mentioned. Thanks for listening to another episode of PvE.